everyone, it's Carolyn here to share more channeled messages. This time Jennifer is with me again. You may remember her from a previous video. Today we're going to be talking about our involvement, the involvement in the ascension process, and if we can shift the process that we're going through to make it, I'll just say, maybe more comfortable. It's an interesting conversation. Jennifer and I come from, I'll just say, two sides of the same coin, the way we get information and talk about things, but ultimately what you're going to see is we're really talking about the same thing. So, interestingly, we go through an almost hour-long conversation on this topic of ascension, the difficulties of it, and actually the opportunity to maybe take more hold of our journey. So I think you're going to find this interesting today. So thanks again for joining me. For those of you who don't know me and are new, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Carolyn. I'm a channel. I'm a distance energy healer, and I'm a spiritual awakening mentor. And I offer these channels to help you along your ascension and your awakening journey. So thank you so much for joining me today. Down below in the description box, you're going to see information on Jennifer. You're going to see information on me, and you'll get a link into my website that will actually allow you to get to a video on flow and how to create that in our body for health and wellness, because this is the vessel we travel in when we go through this awakening journey, and flow assists us in actually being able to have what I'll call maybe a more gentle process. This will then lead you to my email that I send out each week. It's a channeled message every week that you'll receive on the Friday before the week coming up, and it helps support you on your journey forward. So we're just going to get going right into it. I'm going to let you see the video, and then at the end I will close out with you as usual.
I don't know. Sometimes I feel good. Sometimes I feel bad. Sometimes I feel like I'm in somebody else's body or somebody else is in my body. I mean, it's just all over the map. It's very, but such huge events happened. Some of them being very traumatic, but they felt like reversals.
Okay, that's interesting. And I'll just share what I had over the weekend was, and of course we have the full moon on Sunday. What I had over the weekend was from Thursday through literally Monday morning, a series of waves of energy, which is definitely the Kundalini energy, but flowing through me that wouldn't stop. Yeah. And it was just, I finally broke it was like a fever. It was really weird on Monday. I didn't feel normal. I could tell what was happening. And then suddenly I'm sitting here working and I broke in this huge sweat, drips went down my back. And all of a sudden I started to feel like I had integrated that's the only word I can come up with, integrated whatever was happening over those 3 or 4 days with the energies that were rolling through me. And then since then I have felt some level of normalcy, but I'm very much in a different place energetically, I would say, just because of the past month's events. But so I'm wondering how that correlates with what you're experiencing, or if it does.
Are you feeling like those integrations, do you feel better when they're done? Like, that was a good integration, I'm glad that happened? Or do you feel like, all right, I don't know where this is going, but I guess we just did,
Okay, so what happens with me, because they're individual events that are part of a whole, but the individual events are very similar. They're just not as accentuated as the first energetic event. But what happens is during the event, well, it's not pleasant. After the event, I feel like my brain has been rewired and I'm a tamped down version of myself, and I'm very slow or slower. And it's almost like they just said, like, having to recharge my battery, like getting used to that new, I don't know if it's a frequency or vibration or what has been, well, they told me the other night, recalibration, like the recalibration of me, I get used to that next day. And so then I guess what I would say is I don't know yet, I guess. I like how I feel in that. Okay. So the number one thing I would say to answer your question is I like that I have now this view of having stepped back about half a mile from what's going on. And I don't feel so connected to the emotion of all the things around me, or even what's happening in my own journey. Like I'm more of an observer. My emotions have been tamped down to the point where not this extreme, not that I was extreme, but that how we can behave and react to things as a human.
Yes.
I feel like I'm much more of the ego component of that has been set in the back seat of the car, like I've always used as my metaphor.
Yes.
So,
Well, I feel like there are some of these things that are being done that were done to me, and I've actually reversed them out. And I'm hearing, and a lot of it was similar to what you're saying, where there was stuff going on with my brain. It felt like brain rewiring, but it felt like
totally.
I was a diminished version of myself, like I wasn't open to tapping into like universal consciousness.
Okay.
I wasn't receiving and interacting with the purity of pure source energy the way that I once was. So all of it felt like an interference to me,
Okay, that's
because
interesting.
all of it felt like a diminishment. So I was in resistance for much of it. Even when I was being told, we're doing this for you, I was saying, you know me, I was saying, no, 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 because this doesn't feel good. You feel like you are diminishing the highest potential of my being and telling me it's for my own good. And I'm saying, it doesn't feel like that. And I don't
No,
want
it
it.
doesn't. It doesn't feel like that. It makes me wonder if we're talking about the same thing, but it's different. I don't know. I mean, when we talk about our experiences, because when it's happening, it doesn't, in what I'm experiencing,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't feel good as it's occurring, but I also do know it's for my higher good. But I feel, to your point you just made, like a tamped down version of myself.
Right.
But yet I haven't lost my sensitivity or
Mm-hmm.
my, I'll just say, abilities to bring in information or any of that. I I don't know if anything's really ramped up. It's pretty much, I don't know if I want to say has stayed the same as far as like the channeling and all of that. I mean, it's been always pretty rampant, but I'm not sure I'm seeing benefits to it other than the egoic part of that, which I call the egoic part, or the human mind part, where I'm not so wrapped up in the emotion of
Sure.
not getting what I want, or
Right.
how people behave, or what I'm seeing out there, or do you know what I'm saying?
Well, what
That's
I've been doing, yes, I know exactly what you're saying, because what I've been doing is I'm not a real big proponent of, compromise on certain things.
right.
So when I have had some of these changes where I feel like my ego experience is dying, kind of being
Yes.
unplugged, not being energized, I'm like, that's nice, that's good, but I am not willing to compromise my sensitivity to energy
Yes.
in order for that to happen. So I'm saying the ego doesn't own my energy body,
Right.
right?
Right.
So in order, you see what I'm saying? So it's
Yes.
like I've always said, no, this is not what I know to be the highest potential, most beneficial and ideal state and feeling for my being in
Yes.
this
And to you,
experience.
and the difference here for you and me, at least I think, is that you have previously experienced what you feel is the highest state, correct?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I do not feel I have had that in the past.
Okay.
I feel like I've been moving in that direction, even though I don't even know what that means, what I just said. I don't know what that direction really even means or how I would apply that to how I would feel. Now, I will say, you can argue, well, if you're a tamped down version of yourself and you don't feel like yourself, is that bad or is that good? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, that's the trap we seem to fall into here, even with the ascension process. We are trying to do our part for ascension. So we are doing and accepting of many things, thinking it's part. And I'm saying, if it truly is, I am open to that conversation. But if we are accepting so much, taking on burdens that aren't ours, taking on energies that are not for our highest good, taking on symptoms, feeling miserable, because we're saying it's ascension and we must do it. I'm saying, no, we must not. We
and
don't have
that's
to take that on.
okay. So, and
And
that,
that's what I'm,
I think
yeah,
that'd be an interesting part of this conversation to pursue,
yeah,
because to your point, do we have a choice? I don't know. And you're saying, yeah, I
think
want
we
to, I
do.
want to, I want to be able to say yes or no. And
That's right.
and most of us just, I guess for me, I've just accepted what has come, right? But at the same time, when I'm in my throes of discomfort, I'll just say, I talk to my crew and I say, okay, no. And lately I'm like, no. Okay, we need to do this. Like the other night, I was having an LSD trip in my head, in my sleep. I was like half asleep, but I wasn't, and I couldn't fall asleep. And I literally was having a tamped down version. I mean, I've never tried LSD, but point is it's got to be like that because it was hallucinating, right? So I'm hallucinating, and like a half hallucination. I'm like, oh, this is not, I don't like this. I don't like this mind thing, which is why drugs have never worked well for me, right? And so I said to them in bed, this is like just a couple of nights ago, I said, okay, we need to remove these visuals. I need to go to sleep. I can't have this. And I just basically said, I can't have this. And literally probably in the next 10 minutes, I was asleep, and then nothing happened through the rest of the night.
Yeah.
So to your point about being able to, this is an interesting conversation, because we so much believe and feel that what happens in the ascension is what's supposed to happen if it's coming our way, but we're not a participant. We just are done too. Does that make sense?
Right.
So
and I'm just not buying that. At one time I did, but it goes against. So this is what I think and I think it was part of my lesson. Not that even that's even planned out. I don't even accept that premise that we have to have lessons that we're here to learn. I don't even accept that. But I believe it was a learning for me in the sense that taking on and being told what is necessary is like, no, we're creator beings. We're creating what's happening. We don't have to do anything. Ascension can go however we want it to go.
Okay, so this is a whole different way of looking at things. Absolutely. Yeah. And I've started to realize that I'm kind of moving in that direction without having even articulated it or thought of it like that. Yeah. So what I wonder then, if we take this further, what does that mean? How does that look? What do we do? Are there things we can do because I don't think people really think of it like that.
No, they just, it's like the New Age 10 Commandments. They move from one set to the next set and keep on going like they need to suffer. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to be told everything's for your highest good. Just let it happen to you. I've had experiences in the last 2 years. It was not for my highest good.
Right.
And I did not allow it to happen to me. It was horrifying. Right. I had to spend significant time undoing what had been done, where I was being told it's for your highest good. Let it happen. Let it flow in. I said, no, it does not feel right. I don't want that.
Right. Because so much of what as I'm thinking about working with clients and everything, so much of what we do, I'll just say it's kind of reactionary to what has been happening. Right. And then we talk about the thing. I mean, because what else you could do? We talk about the thing, and we talk about what can be done and how to then move forward in your journey.
Sure.
But what we don't talk about is we do talk about creating, manifesting what you want forward, but not so much with respect to the ascension process. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So manifesting essentially the ascension process that you want. I mean,
yes.
If we
setting like very stringent boundaries for yourself, like, and it's not an easy task. This is not an easy ask for somebody who's veiled, who's coming into ascension. We don't even have the awareness or understanding on this level, many of us, of even how it's being done. We don't even understand the layers of the body. We don't understand how we participate in other realms and how it's related to this one. We don't know that stuff right out of the gate. We have to learn these things slowly. So all of these things are occurring. Mm-hmm. We are ultimately the boss when it comes to how it's going to go down, but we're in a veil, right?
Yes. And
so here we're finding out. So I'm starting to do little things like I've been working with my innate like crazy. And what I did the other day.
Explain what you mean by the innate.
So innate is involved in everything that is, okay? But it is also through your body. It knows everything about you. It knows everything about your Akash, about your so-called contracts or mission, the reason you came here. It has communication with everything. It knows your biology.
Is that the same as your soul self, your higher self?
It's different than that. This is more of a platform in which we exist within,
Okay.
that is it's everywhere. It cannot be. It cannot not be, or nothing would exist.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
It's in everything. It has pure intelligence. It is basically, I don't even know what to ascribe it to, but it knows everything about your body. So if I were to say, for instance, I've been asking my team lots of questions lately. How many versions of me are out there in all these different places? How many of those vessels are actually connected into this vessel? Where do I go when I go astral? How does it work logistically? I've been asking all these questions because so much chaos going on with my vessels and in my body. I want to understand this. So exactly. I have been doing, and I notice with different ones, I get different teams saying different things. And I'm like, okay, enough of this.
Yes.
I'm going, innate, you're connected to all of me everywhere I am. Yes, I am. I'm like, okay, you and I are going to start talking now. So can you locate every vessel of mine and tell me if there is a layer or a foreign frequency that is trying to integrate or merge, that is not for my highest good, that does not belong in me or any of my vessels anywhere. So yes, I can do that. Like that. I said, okay, those and we went through the process. If that is going on, this is what I want you to do. I want you to isolate it and do XYZ to reverse it out. And so I felt all of these things going on all over the place as my innate was locating it and running the code that I told it to run. So it's almost like a mesh, not in a matrix kind of entrapment crappy way, but it's almost a mesh that permeates all of existence and can find you.
All of existence. That's what I'm getting. Yes.
Yes.
It's a frequency. It's an energy that when you first said this, I saw it threading through everything.
Everything. It's in everything.
Okay.
So the only thing I would say might be somewhat is like ether. Yes, intelligent ether. Yes. It's in every cell of your body, and it's also in every corner and every infinite existence of everywhere. So it can.
No, go ahead. It can what?
It can do everything from this biology, the cells, what's happening in individual cells in your body, to every single piece of information that's in your Akash, to locating every single vessel that you are incarnated in everywhere, to locating contracts and information in any time and space, right. And then also accessing those and then working with you to make adjustments, right?
Okay, so let me ask you this. Let me stop you there, because here's where I want to go with this. How does that link to what very much is what I don't want to say subscribed to. This has just happened for me. It's also information I've received, because I think it is linked. I don't think they're separate and one, it's either or. Is how does that what you're talking about linking to allowing flow, allowing the ease of the process, not fighting. Remember, fight energy. We don't want to put fight energy toward it. We don't want to, how do I want to say this? Fight energy, basically. Allowing the flow, allowing the gentleness, and allowing the doors open to what's for our higher good. How does that, because that's what you're talking about is much more interactive in the sense of.
Yes, and it's much more comprehensive, because what I began to realize is I may not be actively from this perspective interacting with that, with all of this other stuff, but it is interacting with me, right? Oh. So I need to be aware I am interacting with the entirety of my multidimensional being and everything that is going on and all these other, whether I know it or not. So I need to be aware of how we are connected and in which way we are connected. So on a more of a comprehensive level, I can then state, this is how I want this to go down.
Okay. So it's about having that conversation about what you want, even if you don't know what's really going on.
Right. So you don't have to know the details about everything that's going on, but you can say on a comprehensive level, everything that is interacting with me and my being and my network of beings needs to be within integrity of, let's say, the original source divine blueprint.
Right. And yeah. And it's interesting as you're talking, I'm starting to think about my situation with Kundalini. And I think I now realize I actually was doing that, but didn't realize I was doing it when I had gotten fed up a month or so ago, and kind of said, not kind of, I said, wait a minute, I can't have what happened again in
Yes.
April happen again. And again, to the point being made earlier that it's for my own good, but I said, I need it to be done. I remember saying this, I need this to be done differently. This needs to be done in a way that is manageable for me, the human, and that I can still live my day to day and not be overwhelmed. And then literally, like, it felt like the next time it happened to me, it's manageable. Still not the most pleasant thing, but it's tamped down dramatically. And I wonder if that's because of my interaction with that
Yes.
energy. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it does. And so I'm thinking like, for even that, I'm starting to question everything. Okay. So
Yeah.
here we are talking about Kundalini. We all know that it's part of the process. We all know that it is what, but you know what? I said, wait a minute. That works in conjunction with a system of chakras and different.
Yes.
I'm asking now, I'm saying, okay, end game, does our ideal dream objective physical body and experience include the system that includes the kind of outdated chakra system that has this whole Kundalini energy activation involved? And I got no.
Yeah.
And I went, shut that off.
Meaning no.
Meaning we're not actually shooting for a body that even needs to do a Kundalini awakening.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So to your point, we're currently working off of, okay, they just said like an old structure of the human. And as we're moving into the higher dimensional spaces, okay, they're just saying this now, and I kind of knew this, but I've never really had a conversation, is that chakra system goes away. I mean, essentially is no longer necessary because we in totality are that light body, and that light, does that make sense? That chakra system's not needed.
I started to see this a little while ago. We're doing all this chakra work, and we're doing all of this stuff. We're integrating, we're being good little light workers, right? Right. Let me clear for the ancestors. Let me do, we're doing all of this stuff, and we're taking hits like crazy, feeling miserable, not enjoying this at all. And I started to think about this. I'm like, some of the bodies that I see or experience, they don't even feel like they've got this in them. So I'm looking at it like, why are we like doing a full overhaul or maintenance on a car that's going to go into the compactor and be recycled into why are we putting our soul self, our energetic source self being through trauma, drama, pain, discomfort? A lot of people just like they don't even want to do this anymore. Why are we doing that to our emotional, mental, soul self when we're not even going to end up with this body that has all this stuff?
Right. So
why don't we focus on the higher one and let this one slough away?
What they're mentioning to me is the jalopy. We're like basically the body that we have, the energetic body we have now is not where we're going. They are also talking about evolution. This is an evolutionary process we're going through, but it feels to me, okay, this is funny. So to the point that you're making that we're talking about with respect to being able to insert ourselves more into that process, does that then advance the moving away from the old jalopy into the new body? Do you see what I'm saying? So like, yes, or does our interaction just, or does
I'm looking at it like, here we are scrubbing the floors, cleaning the windows, scraping off, perfecting this building that's somebody's about to come in and demolish. What are we doing? Why are we doing all this work on this particular, because what I'm seeing a transition. I felt the transition between bodies. Yes. It's not hard. It's actually very simple. It's done instantly. It's all consciousness. You consciously back out of one and go into another. And I'm saying, we're not, this body limits our ascension.
Yes.
And it's not that the other body is so totally different. It is still the divine body.
Yes.
But the one that has been modified to the point of limitation is the one we're sloughing. And we're moving, ascension is moving it to the higher ones. So I'm saying the one we're sloughing, we need to quit doing all this maintenance work on it, pull our consciousness, wick it into the higher one, and allow this body to transmute back into source. I mean,
okay, so so this gets really complex because we are processing through our cellular memory, because I mean, this is a vast part of the work that I do, processing through our cellular memory, a lot of our past life experiences, a lot of the things that we're getting rid of. All right.
Yes.
The memories that we're getting rid of, the past life experiences that we didn't deal with then are now clearing out of our system. There is a clearing process that's happening. So how does that then integrate with what you're talking about, which basically it feels to me like, and I'm not saying you're saying this, but that you go from point A to point C and we don't have to do B. You understand what I'm saying? Like the B is the clearing, the all of that. Like how does that, and then I guess what I want to get to is some practical stuff of like, if this is actually possible, and I'm not saying we skip over anything, maybe what we end up doing is, okay, they're showing something like this, like instead of having to go to the mountaintop and I'll get all the way up there and climb and make it hard, there may be an easier way around. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
But you still go through this, you're still going through the same thing, but in a different way. Does that make sense?
Well, what I've experienced several times is all of the heaviness or things that I feel like I am pushing through or trying to deal with, trying to get through, trying to balance. And it's the same energy. I think a lot of it is almost like we're trying to retain the wisdom that we've gained in a lot of these experiences, but we're dropping the limitation and the distortion that was done to the vessel in which you experienced that in. So we're pulling the wisdom out and we're moving it into, so it's almost like a information extraction, it feels like to me, but I felt doing this work, doing that job in that energy, I've actually taken it and moved that job into a higher body, and it did it like that. So I'm saying there's even a way to get through this drudgery. Sometimes it feels very, very uncomfortable, painful, that really makes people lose hope. And I've seen it done in such a way that work done in a different body, different light body or different, can be done instantly. It does not have to be additional trauma to the being trying to get this trauma undone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
We're undoing this trauma and we're adding all this new trauma to the experience of having to undo this trauma. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm like, because this is not working out right here.
Yeah. So what I want to come back to is, okay, so what can we do? What can people do that are watching this video to make this attempt and do something different? Do you see what I'm saying? But what I want to say first is you and I kind of come from two different places. I mean, we're in the same process, but we come from it in two different places. Yours is, you're very involved and very analytical and very, why is this and what is this and what do I do to manifest my own destiny, right? Like in that sense, like I, on the other hand, I do some of that, but I do more of the let this flow of what's goodness for me to just come in and just allow, if that makes sense. Do you see what I'm saying? Versus, so there's kind of those two, I don't want to say schools of thought, but they're still getting you to the same place eventually. But what I'm wondering is, can we, well, okay, let me back up because the way that I guess I've been schooled by my crew and me going through this is the more I allow and just let it be and not fight things, I'm kind of moving, and maybe this is just my plan. You know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, maybe we each have our own plan. I have no idea, but I'm moving through it kind of with grace, I would say. But it's not like I'm totally uninvolved because, like, to my point I just made earlier, when the Kundalini was doing its thing, I was like, okay, hang on, guys. I understand I need this, but we can't do it this way. You see what I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
wonder how we can talk, because I talk a lot about the way that I'm schooled in it and the process and how that flows for me. And often in many ways, I mean, everybody kind of has some of their own uniquenesses that they're counseled on when I channel, but also I do tend to offer a lot of what happens with me.
Sure.
If we want a different alternative to try to attempt in this journey, I really want to talk about what you're thinking people could actually do to become more involved or be the creator of their own ascension process.
Well, yes, absolutely. And that kind of has been my experience with this, that even what I believe, the beliefs that I have accepted about the ascension process and waking up, it's evolving. It evolves. That changes, rapidly. In fact, if you keep a journal, I keep a journal, I write notes, I'll flip back to just 5 pages and I'll be, oh my God, I feel like that thought or idea is so outdated.
Right.
Just 5 pages ago. Mine is constantly evolving
Yes.
to a higher understanding, and it changes my perspective so much on what I believe to be true about this experience and about going through this process. So I have tried to be very clear about my desires, my boundaries, and and I'll set my intention for what my ultimate goal, what my dream, my vision is for this experience of being in this, and what would make me want to be a human in this experience, right? And what my idea of the point of this was to be a source expressing through a body, right?
Right.
And why I would want to do that. And it would have to be why I would want to do it. What would be my ulterior motive for wanting to do that in the first place? And then how would I want my experience to be? And that's kind of the viewpoint that I come from with this. So I also don't ever allow myself to forget the power of source energy that we are. We don't have to slug along, dragging a dead horse. We don't have to do that. We are source creator beings.
Well, and so I'm going to stop you there, because what I then had come into my mind is someone, and a lot of people are in this situation where their journey is extraordinarily difficult physically. They have a lot of physical ailments, a lot of situations that they're clearing out, a lot of past life kinds of things that are showing up as illnesses, a lot of we know the Ascension, dealing with people coming their way, having to redo situations, scenarios, living the 3D life to actually redo what they may have not gotten right, or whatever right is the last time. All these things that are part of the human journey to assist us in spiritually growing. How then, well, I guess I have one example, a bit of an example, where when people start to realize they can heal themselves with energy healing, like because we're all healers, and they start taking control of some of their thought processes with respect to what's going on with them physically. That's kind of a little bit a part of this, of what you're saying, I think, is taking the reins and saying, wait, I am the creator. I can assist myself in not feeling sick anymore, or not having this, pulled ligament in my knee, or whatever it is, right? And then taking a hold of that and then creating, I mean, this is a very minor example, but creating the process they want to have, which is doing the healing work for themselves. Do you see what I'm saying? Like realizing that they are the creator, but it takes really coming out of that 3D human way of what we've been taught to believe, is that we're powerless over.
Yes, right. And it is, a lot of this is like, my team has been dropping this word epigenetics, which, I've been doing this for years now, especially with my son, but they keep dropping this kind of word in for me, because it is basically healing and many other things, but healing is one of them through consciousness.
Yes.
So it's something that we can really start to embrace more fully and realize our existence. The material, the body, even the ship we go to at night, is our consciousness manifested into a material form.
Exactly.
So as we go through this process and what we're doing, we start to realize that everything that is happening is consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Now, even some of the things I'm beginning to, okay, so it's like take this example. Okay, so we are repeating the lessons. If you think about that, the idea of having to redo a behavior in order to see if we could do it differently for learning, that construct is 100% embedded in ego. If you drop your ego, there are no lessons.
Okay, I'm just letting that go because I'm okay, that I can understand.
If you think about kind of unplugging from the egoic experience,
right,
that concept is tied to that.
Okay, so let me go with this because I think I know where you're, I may be wrong, but I think I know where you're going down. This is what I'm getting the sense of is, you know how I talk about that observer role? Like
yes,
the things are happening and you're not attached to it.
Right. And you're becoming more and more of that observer, more and more of that one who can view and see, more and more of the one who has this kind of infinite knowledge. It's not striving to know or learn or to achieve anymore. You're kind of backing up, so to speak, into this role of observing. When you're really in that role, do you feel like your observer has lessons to learn?
No, not at all. No.
Because you're the observer watching your ego.
And that's where I feel like I'm at now in the last literally probably month. I mean, since the early, well, Lionsgate has really done a number on me, but
yeah,
that,
I know.
but in a way that allows for what we're talking about here.
So I guess that's where I am, you know, because we have this kind of like, I got to do it all. I've got to be this. I can't bypass. I can't, you know, I've got to do it all right. And I'm looking at it now like that might be one of the biggest lessons of all.
Well, and it may make it difficult.
You don't have to do anything.
It makes it more difficult.
Drop out of and try to become the higher, yes, that might be one of the lessons is dropping that idea that you have to do that. I don't know. But when you're in your observer, when you're in your higher self, when you're in closer and connected to your source self as your observer, who truly is more of a accurate depiction of who you are as your higher self, you are viewing the ego, the human construct, trying to learn its lessons.
Yes.
And what I'm starting to see these things more and more and more, where I'm like, we're not here to do that. You know, we're not here to do that. We're letting this go. We're observing this. We are backing up into our higher being.
We're observing it.
Yes. So a lot of this stuff, and it's not our fault. You know, it's not like our fault. It's not that we're doing anything wrong. It's just starting to realize that was the stuff that was created from some of the constructs that keeps us running around chasing our tail and not being to fully embody and be our creator being,
and being overly
involved. Us busy running around,
right? And being overly
involved and feeling obligated. I'm obligated to learn lessons and repeat lessons, and the world, and it keeps, you know, why wouldn't we believe it? The universe keeps bringing it to us, right? So yes, okay, that must be a repeat. I have to do that again because I didn't learn my lesson the first time, so it's coming back to me. And you know, why wouldn't we believe it? It's happening, right? But I'm thinking, this is wrong. Back up one. We don't have to do this. This is not part of my experience. I'm not obligated to do this at all, because when I am in my higher mind, none of this exists.
Okay, so
I don't have any confusion about any kind of lesson when I'm at my higher state. So no, I'm not, my soul does not need to learn that, because me in my higher self, my soul already knows this.
Okay, so let's say somebody's in the throes of an actual 3D events that are happening to them. Name 10,000 things that happen in the ascension journey. What do they do to move to that kind of?
Well, I think that with assistance, because we need, like, logistically, we are in a material, we're dealing with material stuff like bodies, okay? But logistically speaking, what I've been trying to do, and this is just what I've been working on myself, I'm getting better at it. I'm not perfect at it yet, but I am working with my innate. First thing that I did, I said, I need my innate, and I need innate to meld with my human consciousness and my source self as one. And we need to be working in perfect coordination. Then from that point, when I'm having these things, and what time when you're in pain, it's very difficult to do this, but if you can just recognize that you're running programs.
Yes.
And just enough to say, kill the programs, transmute them.
So let me ask you this then, because when you were talking about that, my first thought was, when we do the intervention, kind of being intervening in that sense, or getting involved, how do I want to say, we're coming from the human space, talking about this and what we want to have done. How do we know that that's, I guess, the choice to make? Does that make sense? And I'm doing this from a perspective of, well, if you just allow things to occur in divine order, rather than getting involved in you have to come from your higher, though. That's the thing. You've got to come from your higher.
What I try to do is I try to shift myself back into my observer as much as I can. Like I said, it's not always easy. I shift myself up into my observer. I don't like push my human out of the way, because my human is in this experience too.
Right.
But I shift myself in that, and then I see it from a different perspective. And that's where I start making my changes of perspective, my changes of concepts. I see it from a difference. And a lot of times I leave, my Jennifer, I love my human. I don't just like move that out of the way. I see it as, and I start to change my, if you want to call it strategy, or my priorities about what's happening here, based on moving myself into a higher observer role.
Okay.
And so I'm not, because usually when I have to like stop myself, it's usually when my human is getting jerked around and doesn't know what to do, like something crazy is happening, or like you said, sometimes with this ascension stuff, we're like, okay, what's going on? I can't have this, get this out of my, and the human is trying to understand and relate. That's when I have to stop myself and transition.
Yes.
I have to force myself higher to look at it.
To look at it differently from the higher perspective versus only the human 3D, because you're only looking at it from the human 3D. You lose you lose sight of what the divine plan is, essentially.
Yes. So when I'm down in 3D and I'm feeling pain, a headache, that, I feel nauseous, all this stuff. Oh, everybody's having symptoms, and we're all talking about it's all part of ascension and we have to do it. And I'm pissed off and grouchy, and I am not enjoying my experience one bit, right? That is the time where I try, okay, chill out and go up.
Yes.
And you know what? When I go up, what I always hear, when I start getting into my own head and talking to myself, nothing is required of you. You don't have to do anything. Your presence there is all that's required. You could kick back and enjoy yourself. You don't have to do a thing.
Yes.
That's what I hear. When I'm down in 3D, I'm working through my this. I'm getting my, that going, I have to do this. And that's what's going on in this jerk pull thing, right?
So what you're saying then.
Now, when I transition up and I realize that, everything changes and it becomes calm and smooth, and it's no problem.
Yeah. So that links directly to the idea of the perspective I'm coming from, and how I speak this, my crew speaks, is allowing that flow as the human. Like you just said, you don't have to do anything. You don't have, allowing the flow, allowing the ease of grace, allowing things to occur. But then when invariably they do occur in the human 3D world, it's taking the observer role, moving to your higher, and being involved from that perspective. Is that what that's?
Yes. And the tools that we're using for this, sometimes it's very difficult to get there from human, right?
Yes.
Because of some of the things that are going on are hard, So I think what I've been focusing on primarily is I know that's there. I've been in a lot of communication with it. I slip and slide around a lot, which I don't enjoy. And that's one thing. I am stabilized. I don't want to slip. I don't want to slide. I hold my dominant frequency at all times, you
Yep.
know, and that's why I did the meld.
Yep.
My highest source being is melded with innate and my human consciousness. And innate knows every action that's happening in every cell of every body I have. All right. So
Yes.
that is, I'm saying I'm holding my dominant frequency of pure source being love at
And
all
you have to
times,
be
no matter where. Go
right.
ahead.
You have to be able to, what they're saying is it's allowing your higher to guide your journey, coming from that perspective. In other words, you have to envision yourself there guiding the journey.
Yes.
And come out of that
You're-
space of, okay, so like when you have something traumatic going on in your life, or you're having an encounter with somebody, or you're having a physical thing, it's knowing in that moment to take the breath,
Yeah.
and go, wait a minute, take me higher, take me
Yes.
higher in that moment. Because I'm trying to make this like really real for people so they can go,
Yes.
oh, here's what I do when I go.
You have to have tools because you're human, and in the moment of this stuff happening, you're not in that space, and you have to pull yourself and move up.
Yes,
But you have to give yourself tools that you can remember and that are easy when you're in that state as you're human.
exactly.
Because I know if I'm really embroiled in something and I'm in pain, I'm angry, my emotions are stirred up, stuff is flowing through me like a hurricane. I can barely articulate a sentence,
Yes,
let
and this
alone
is
put
what they're
together
showing.
the perfect words for creation, right?
This
So
is
you
what they're
have to have
showing.
the tool in place, one word or two.
Yes.
That's it. Yeah.
And they're showing this as you're speaking, they're showing us stuck as the human in the trauma and the broiling and roiling. And that actually causes us to be stuck more. And a lot of that comes from the emotion of fear, all of that heavy energy that we bring into those experiences, anger, sadness, frustration, all of that tightens things. It doesn't allow us to get to our higher and work from that. So when we find that way out of that human tightness and that energy that causes, that causes us to stay there and truly experience this, we can't get to our higher.
Yes.
To be able to then manage that instead, and then ease our situation.
Yes.
Right.
And for actually bringing that light, we're so constricted in the lower state that we're not even allowing the very light that will knock this stuff on its ass
Yes.
to get into our body to help us. So we have to allow, and I've done it in the sense where I'm in a good space. I am totally connected. I've put together the concept of how I want things to go down, and I give it a 1 or 2 word name.
Okay, that's good.
So when I am embroiled in it, it's almost like a safe word. When I'm in it, I'm just like, wow, I just say it. And they know that's what I want right now. Help me. Do this for me right now. Bring me back. Line me back up, right? That's actually one of them I used to use a while back. It was line me up. And that was all I'd say when I was just messed up and I couldn't, line me up. And I would get back.
You're talking about line you. So you have a one kind of word for when you're embroiled in the 3D thing to align you back to your higher. Is that correct?
Yeah. Because I went through when I was in my higher state in a cool, calm, collected, higher observer role, I went through a very perfectly articulated process of how I want my energetic to be lined up, right? Calm, cool. I'd like this to be this way, this to be, and I've got this whole thing, right? And I update that all the time, but I gave it a word. So I don't have to think about going through all this crap every time I'm sliding. I say, this is called that. So when I say it, I'm not even asking, I'm commanding it for myself. We always think of it as I'm asking my team to help. No, I'm commanding it from my higher being.
Yes.
That is what I want. That is what I'm getting now.
Yes. And so then what happens is because of the one word, you don't have to unfold the whole process in your mind and say, oh, I need this, and done.
Nope.
You say the word and it is the process that showers down upon you. They're actually showing this right now. They're showing like, oh, you know what they're showing? They're so funny. You know how there's that old thing of pulling a bucket down and the water comes down on you. You pull the string or you
Oh
pull
yeah,
the rope and the
that's
bucket goes.
right.
That's what they're showing.
Yes,
It's
yes.
that. And they're showing the water flowing.
Uh-huh.
I love that process because
Yes.
so much of this ascension journey and the awakening journey, I mean, we know it's so multi-layered. There's so much going on. We can get very overwhelmed with the things
Yes.
occurring and happening. But if we
Mhm.
have a way to elevate ourselves out of that, and I love your safe word to understand. And I think when you come up with a safe word, you want to be able to say, this is what I need it to be able to do, like what flows down
Yes.
from you.
You put
From
together
that
the
word.
whole process, everything that you want for yourself. You do it when you're in a calm state and you're aligned, and you do it with pure intent, and you command it for yourself. This is what it is, so be it. Every time, and now from this point forward, this is being called this. And so I say you could use the word reset, you could use the word align, you could use the word anything you want, but you command it for yourself in any moment. So your human going through distress does not need to manage themselves into a way to try to articulate in a level of frustration. You are moving yourself out of that completely.
Just by saying
With
that
one
word, because when we're in the thick of those,
Yes,
in the thick of it, that's the last thing we're thinking of is
that's right.
how to make that happen, because most of us don't even know that that can happen. But we've
Yes.
used some examples today of where I didn't even realize that was happening for me. I just took control and said, no, we can't have this anymore. Boom. But the word, though, and now I can use this more often, but the word attached to the process of that shower coming down on you, right?
Yes.
That's key, because it makes it so much simpler. So I guess what we would say to people is to, you like you said, find your safe word, basically. And
Yes.
what's your process? What does it mean? What does a safe word mean? So that when you call upon it in your dark
Yes.
times or your difficult times or just your struggles,
Or anytime you want, you just
Yeah.
want to be there. You want to operate from that level anytime. It doesn't matter. You can
Exactly.
say that. And what it is, when I did it, I just said, I'm going to do this very clear. So no, there's no confusion, right? So I was in that state where thoughts were flowing, creation was flowing. I'm in my observer. I'm able to put this thing together perfectly. And we all go through these phases. That's a time to sit down and do it.
Yes.
Write it out. Your intentions are pure. They're clear. Your words are flowing from your higher being, right?
Mhm.
From you in your higher state. They're flowing in this way. You put this down, you can write it, you can say it, it does not matter, but you put it down and you say, and this, from this moment forward, is going to be called this.
I love that. Yes.
And I am commanding this for myself.
And see this,
Okay.
exactly. And see what this really does is this helps, we're always trying to find tools and ways to help make this journey, which is extremely complex and
Yes.
quite often a struggle,
Yes.
to make it easier, to make it flow more like it, like we talked the last time we got together, how, we specifically with the twin flames, how this isn't supposed to be happening this way, and all of that alignment. So with respect to the individual journey here, helping make this an easier process by having a tool, having in your back pocket that you pull, your master tool that can work for anything that you're struggling with, that you're going through in the ascension journey.
Yeah. They're funny. They show me when I do this, they always say, take command and control, and I was, I don't know what's going on. So it's funny when I do these things, they show me this long scepter thing that touches the ground. And like saying something like I say, I commanded, or so they always show me like tapping it on the ground really hard, like this vibe going out, like this huge energy wave leaving from the tap.
Yes.
That is what you are doing for yourself. That is what you are commanding for yourself. So some of the tips that I could say for this process is make it broad about the entirety of your multidimensional being. You can make it some specific about, but your alignment, you don't really want to limit yourself, because a lot of times, especially when you're in ego, a lot of your creation will be protection. Clear this, push everyone back, bubble me up, protect me, get everybody away from me. This is your human in stress. That is how the human creates in stress. It's very protective.
Yes.
So wait for yourself to be in this higher one where you will not actually limit yourself when you're commanding alignment.
Right. And a very good time to do that would be in a meditative mode when you're in a quiet space and you've dedicated time to actually do this.
Yes.
Yep. Exactly.
So it's not necessarily that, you don't need to do that. In some cases, it does feel like you need to do that protection, but ultimately, and what, my objective, my goal is to be in a state where I don't feel that. I don't feel like I need, okay, something's coming up and I need protection, or I'm about to be hurt, or something's going to go. That is the very human thing. And it's almost like as you start to pull away from, you are elevating,
yes,
and you are extracting yourself from the ego experience. Yep. So it doesn't have to be ripped off of you like a wax, like you're getting waxed.
And what happens,
it doesn't have to hurt so much.
Right. What happens is you start living from that higher space. You start living from that higher space. That's exactly it. And I do believe we're talking about, that's the ascension process. I think a lot of us are doing this, but not realizing what's happening. And we're not using the tool that you're talking about because we don't know about it, right? But what's really happening here, well, what I was going to say is what's really happening here is we're coming out of eons of enculturation of saying we're not worthy, we don't have power, we can't, we're not divine. It's blasphemy to talk about that. And it goes on and on. And that we're reclaiming this now. And this is one of the tools in reclaiming that, so that we can keep constantly living from that space and not have to call on the safe word all the time. We live from that place.
Yes. And I think that what you said is the indoctrination, the stuff that we are, that's what kind of keeps us in this mode of being down here and doing the work and fighting the good fight and doing all of this stuff that we think that we're doing here as light workers. And you know what? That is going on. But that is not a requirement. That is not a requirement of you. It is here, and you can see it, and you think, "Oh my God, I'm in this fight. I gotta get my sword and let's go." I feel like we don't feel worthy unless we do. That is a human problem. Okay, that is a human issue, and it's not a small thing. It's been going on for a long time. But you can be just as effective, and I would argue even more so, if you elevate yourself, and by reverse osmosis or by wicking, whatever you want to call it, you allow yourself to be in your higher observer. You are extracting and pulling your energy out of that experience, and you're de-energizing it.
Yes, because
so instead of being in it, killing, slashing, burning, you're actually you're de-energizing. It will dissipate when you withdraw your energy from it. So being in this higher state, you are doing your work, but you're doing it like your soul would do it.
Right.
And you're not doing it like your human would do it.
Yeah. And that's that visual that they've given me of this kind of gets, it doesn't get into two different things, but the separation, all those in the fight response and the struggle and the fighting and the versus the population that's moving forward into this higher way of looking at things and managing things in that observer role. And instead, we have examples of that in humankind where they've just popped in, was it Martin Luther King, who it was the peaceful protest part, the coming from the higher, you know what I'm saying? Coming from the higher versus the human 3D component. That's kind of an example of that.
Very much so. That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that it's, and I'm not in denial saying, oh, none of that's actually happening. None of that's real.
Right.
We need to be, it's happening. We can, if I want to, I can reach out and touch it. What I mean? But it is your focus. It's almost a mastery of focus.
Yes.
And knowing that by not focusing, a lot of times they'll say, change your focus, or even in the Bible where they said, turn the other cheek.
Yes.
They weren't talking about someone hits you, turn your cheek so they can hit the other side. That's not what that meant. It meant turn your focus away from it.
Yep.
Quit energizing it with your consciousness.
Yes. And
as you turn, it will dissipate because you are no longer feeding it the energy it needs to survive.
Yes.
So you are actually, in fact, doing more by doing your focusing on focusing your consciousness where you want to see things go,
Exactly.
you are doing more than by getting in and fighting this other thing that you
yes,
don't
and
want.
this is that visual they've given me. This is so interesting how this is all linking up the way we're both talking about this. They've been giving me the
Yes.
visual of don't look over your shoulder, don't look back into the news media, all the stuff that's going on. Don't look back into the fighting, the embroiling. Keep moving forward. Don't be Lot's wife and turn into a pillar of salt, basically.
Yeah.
It's the keep moving forward into the higher, to our point of working from the higher, and then moving through your journey, because you have the 3D journey going on, but you're coming from up here, and you're continually working from the higher space of that.
And this will start to become more prevalent. This will actually start to feel like this is Jennifer up here. This right now, it's like, oh my God, there's so much, and there's so much in this area. There's so much energy hitting you. There's so much going on. It's turbulent here, so it gets your attention. Right. But this will start, if you try to stay here, this will start to feel more like Jennifer, and this will not be, this will kind of be the distant, what are we doing here again? Why are we doing this? Will start to fade away, and this will become the predominant feeling of self.
And that's the moving into the higher frequency dimension way of living. That's what we're going for, which is that ascension process. And talking about the tools that you can use to actually get there, because this one I think is so important, because we just really kind of slog along trying to get through things. But when we start, I mean, this all unfolds naturally, but we can be more of a participant from the higher self perspective, because
and indeed you're actually doing more. So if you are hung up on that, I need to be doing, which so many of us are. So many of us are. If you are hung up on that, I have to be doing to be valuable, I have to be pulling my weight, I have to be doing, you are actually doing exponentially more.
Yes.
By pulling your massive consciousness of your huge being that you don't realize you're carrying around.
Exactly.
Into a state of this observer. Because when you're down here, you may not feel powerful, but you are very powerful. And your consciousness is huge. And when you're down here and you're focusing on it, you are energizing it. So even if you're trying to run over here and put out this fire, run over here and put out that fire, do that, you're doing, your consciousness is feeding these situations. Your consciousness is massive and powerful. You are doing so much more for all of this baloney happening here by pulling your consciousness up here and not allowing that energy, that massive, powerful, amazing creator energy, to play out or to involve and entangle itself in this here.
Because what we've done here is, it's so fascinating how it's the same process, it's the same thing, but we are giving them a different understanding of how they can make this process easier for themselves and be involved in this whole journey, where so many people think they're just being done too. And I've seen it over and over again, right? And you, more than anybody than me, I mean, I'm involved, but I'm not involved like you are. Involved, very involved.
Well, I mean, I was down in the hole. I was down in the hole doing the crazy crap. Right. I mean, I'm one of the people who, that's why I can tell you this is what I've had to do, because I had to do it on a level of like survive. But this is the thing I realized, I'm trying to get out of it by doing this. I think doing this is going to get me there. And what I realized, just go there.
Exactly.
And I didn't know that, but I was trying and working and doing and spending so much of my energy and time doing, if I do enough of this stuff, I will eventually get there. And I realized that's wrong.
Yeah.
You do enough of this, you'll just keep doing more of this. You got to move yourself. Go straight to the top.
I hope you enjoyed that today in our conversation and took at least one or two things away that help assist you on your journey forward. Thank you so much for your comments. I learn as much from you as hopefully you also learn from me. Please like, share, and subscribe, as this gets the messages out to more people. Additionally, if you want to work with me, I have Purple Rain. Additionally, I would love to work with you. If you want your own channeled messages, I offer channeling in all of the services that I do. That's the foundation of everything I do. I work with you, your angels, your guides, and your higher self, and we bring through information from past, present, and future, your full-on soul journey, to assist you in this awakening and ascension journey. Again, spiritual awakening mentoring, channeled messages, and or distance energy healing combined with all of that. So check out purplerainhealing.com. And again, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next video.